From the wilderness of sin, the whole congregation of Israelites journeyed by stages as the Lord commanded. They camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. The people quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses said to them, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you test the Lord?" But the people thirsted there for water. And the people complained against Moses and said, "Why did you bring us out of Egypt to kill us and our children and livestock with thirst?" So Moses cried out to the Lord, "What shall I do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord said to Moses, "Go on ahead of the people and take some of the elders of Israel with you. Take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile and go. I will be standing there in front of you on the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it so that the people may drink." Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. He called the place Massah and Meribah because the Israelites quarreled and tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" So this Exodus test is another one of miraculous provision. Water again takes the stage, but this time it isn't the water that they pass through, it's the water they need to drink. Life-giving, clean, tasty water. Water that looks like life itself rather than death in a glass. What does the water that God brought out of the rock indicate to us? God gave it, but who did he use to get that water? A Poseidon demigod with a trident? No. A beluga whale jumping out and squirting all the people with water from its mouth? No. A hot, tired, scruffy guy who was just willing to listen to God and follow God's instructions so that he can lead the people God has given him to lead. That sounds a lot more like you and me, huh? Not a magician, not a godlike being, a human. A flawed, tired, thirsty human. A person that is willing to be used of God. Could God have made that water come out of the rock without Moses? Oh my, yes, of course. Of course he could. He's God. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants to do it. He is the creator of all things. But God made a choice to include us, to use us as he goes forward here on earth. That's an amazing thing. In every circumstance, God chooses to engage humans to build this relationship with us. He doesn't have to, but God chooses humans to interact with. And through Moses, he brings water for the people by having Moses strike the rock. Here, the people get what they need, yet there's no sense of joy, no celebration. They're remembered here not for dancing and yelling and saying, "Yay, God did this for us." No, they're remembered for their complaining. In Hebrew, Massah means testing, and Meribah means quarreling. That's the name of this land where they got water. Massah and Meribah. How's that for a legacy? But how are we like them? At times, do we have our prayers answered? And maybe we don't even stop to say, "Oh, God was there with us. I didn't even say thank you, God." Because we're so wrapped up with our feelings of discouragement or disgruntlement or disillusionment. This is when we need the reminder that we have the opportunity to strike the rock. We have permission to strike the rock. we are not in this alone. We are connected to the God of the universe. He gave us the right rock to begin, with which we are then allowed to strike. How do we, as people of faith, walk through hardship? How do we embrace with joy this life of faith? How do we lean into what God has given us and trust that there will be enough for us all as we go forward, even in the wilderness? Not that there's not hardship, not that there's not a lack, but as a community, we can embrace the possibilities rather than the scarcity. So the theme for this week is strike the rock. It then becomes a call for a deeper living. Strike the rock can mean for us to lean on God, to rest and trust in Jesus. Strike the rock means find the joy even in the difficult moments, even in the wilderness. Striking the rock is trusting that there is a way forward, even when it seems like there's no way. Striking the rock is a declaration of faith, even when it seems like giving up makes more sense. To strike the rock is knowing that God is with us, even before we know what to ask. We are here together, gathering week by week in person, some of us online, with our worshiping community. We're striking the rock. All of the things that I could be doing here today, all the things that you could do in your life, you're choosing to be here, choosing to be present with this group, lifting our hearts up in worship of the God who provides, the God who is present. We're striking the rock. We need the Spirit to help us find the rock, remember the rock, and remind us to strike the rock. May our prayers be prayers of faith and not complaining. Faith that we will get through even messy situations, that a way will be found through the brokenness of our society, the divisions that are between us, between races, cultures, and politics. We acknowledge a need, but we strike the rock, believing that God will bring us through this portion of the wilderness. I'm just going to read a little statement. This wasn't really supposed to be here, but I think I need to say it to you, that this has been a week of great division, but you are the salt of the earth. You are the kind of people that are fair-minded and kind and want good things for all people. And I believe, I have the belief of the goodwill of what you chose, whatever you chose, whoever you chose, however you chose, that it was all because you wanted good things for your family, for our community, and for our country. I thank you for your part in our democracy. This is a time where our country is more divided than ever before that I've ever seen. But all these people, however they voted, however they've protested, whatever they've done, they are our neighbors. And God has taught us to love God and to love our neighbors. We have to be vigilant. We have to, before all other loyalties, be Christians, loving as Christ loved. We are called apart to show the world how God first loved us. We get to choose our way of thinking. We tend to separate thinking and doing into two different categories of human existence. And that kind of makes sense on some levels. But followers of God know that believing, which is a way of thinking, is effective only when the thinking comes out into our living. We understand that to claim certain intellectual certainties without concurrent behavioral responses is to live an inauthentic life. All that means is, if we say it, we've got to live it. Otherwise, we're not living our truth. But since we are all prone to such living, to acting in ways that are often contrary even to our beliefs, to living in ways that deny our commitment to our faith, we need reminders for time to time. We need an intellectual kick in the pants to keep us and get us back on track. So I have some rocks here. This is the one I've been touching this week, so I'll go back and touch it. Back in 2018, very, very early in my ministry here, Rick and I went to Lake Superior. And there we picked up a bunch of rocks. They've been sitting in the laundry room all this time in a bag. And I got them out this week so that we could have a reminder. It's not big enough to strike much with it, but it can become our reminder rock that we live a life that we can say, I can strike the rock because God is here for me in my everyday life. We live a life of faith. This is our reminder. We act in a way that shows that we know God is acting on our behalf even before we ask Him to, and that God hears us when we ask. This is the reminder rock. Put it wherever you will be reminded that you are a person living your faith. You can come up when we have our communion and choose not only a communion vial, choose a rock to take with you and to keep on your own. So, what is the thinking and the doing, or the thinking and the living implied in the understanding of striking the rock? We remember what God has done in our past and claim what He is going to do in our future. I announced a couple weeks ago that we're going to have a remembrance service where you will tell us on February 16th the things that God has done in your life. That will be the whole sermon, will be you telling, what has God done in my life? And this is what will help us bring us to those memories and bring those memories to our faith every day. We can tell the story again and again. Maybe you've told it before. That's okay. We can't fall back, everybody's heard it before. We need to hear it again. The best family stories are the ones that we keep repeating. Tell it again, our kids and grandkids tell us. They love those stories. We love those stories. No matter how many times we've heard it, when we gather again as the family and we gather here as this family, we tell those stories over and over again. Be ready for it, February 16th. So, let's look at this just a little deeper. What is this text really about? Yes, water from a rock, but look at it again. Is it really about faith and unfaith, and about a people who will say they will only believe in a God who satisfies their needs? Did you ever notice in the larger story how no one seems to come to Moses and say, we got a problem, can we talk? There's no assessments of needs, no petition to explore the policies or possibilities, no delegation to solve the problem, which is our church council. That's what we do, and we do it well here. What there is whining and complaining and casting doubt on the leader. That's not the way God intends us to work. What they left behind looks better from the distance, this thirsty distance. Granted, the need for water is critical to survive, but there seems to be a quick rejection of the one who brought them safe thus far. But let's be honest, it's not Moses' finest moment either. First, he says that to complain to him is actually testing God. That's a dangerous correlation to make. God is not Moses. Moses is not God. And when he does go to God, he doesn't bring the people's need, but his own fear, his own complaint. What shall I do with these people? They're almost ready to stone me. And oh, by the way, they're thirsty. Maybe he knows that God is already aware of their need. He just wants to save his own skin. Then when God gave Moses the instructions, the narration simply says, Moses did so. He did the act God asked him to do. Yes, the people got water, but without celebration, without worship. There's no dancing before the rock, spewing clean water for them to drink. We cannot leave out our joy and our gratitude. It is our worship. It is our life. When we do that, what gets left out is everything that matters in a life worth living. So the question becomes to the Israelites, do you want to live or do you want to have good life? Do you want more than survival? Or can we live into the moment and experience the fullness of God's grace, the abundance of God's providence, the joy of God's salvation? Yes, all of that, even in the wilderness. We don't have to wait until we have reached the final destination. We can live that life. We can think that life right now. We can act that life right now. It makes going through the wilderness that much more sweet. Put this rock in your hand, in your pocket, on your windowsill, on your dining room table, wherever you will see it, and remember, life lived with it and in faith, even in the wilderness, is life more abundant. Faith living is abundant living. It's living by striking the rock of faith. We're going to be going into our time of Holy Communion. It's a beautiful time of sharing. Let me just remind you that during this time, we're using these little portals. And be careful to lift up just the plastic first, and then the juice won't spill all over. So just the plastic first, and take out the wafer, and then hold it. And then at the time, and we will eat together the wafer. Then later we will open the juice, and together again we will take the juice. So at this time, while our ushers have people come, you can get your rock and your communion vial and then go back to your seat.